Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this Anarchy Analysis matchup of the week here in the LEC. We have Fnatic on the blue side taking on G2 on the red side for this matchup, and this is a very big occasion as these two teams are the former finalists of the LEC in the summer split, and they always seem to match up against each other. Last time G2 got ahead against Fnatic, beating them 3-0, and this time Fnatic are looking for revenge against the ninjas and samurais of G2. Obviously, major changes happened during the off-season, with Reckless jumping ships to join his former colleague on Fnatic in Caps, and the rest of the G2 lineup replacing Perks in that bot lane. Was that a good switch? Only time will tell as we jump into Champion Select for this game. Let us get into our bans for this game. As stated before, Fnatic are on blue, G2 are on red, and here come these bans thick and fast. Senna, TF, Udyr removed by Fnatic. G2 remove Olaf, Pantheon, Renekton. And this is kind of a trend. G2 go for essentially the OTP minus the T, so the OP combination, and ban out the Renekton on top of it. That does technically leave the Taliyah for first pick, and G2 in a bit of a situation as to what they go for in their jungle. But I like it from G2. Picking up, banning out the OP junglers is fairly obvious to do, and Renekton on top of that is just a solid top lane pick that does technically counter Camille. And usually the way this is set up is for G2 essentially saying, hey, we've banned out one of Camille's big counters. Here, let me just slurp her up into our team comp. And there you go. That's essentially the aim that G2's gone for here. As for Fnatic, removing Reckless's big power pick that he's gone for in 2 games now and had very good success on it. Granted, he's won one, lost one. And that is his Rage Blade Senna. Remove that from the board. He is not allowed to play that, as obviously I don't think Upset feels too comfortable playing a Senna, so they remove that from the field. TF being banned out as well. That nullifies Caps' roam game on a pick. Obviously it does mean that there is other options like Galio left up and available if he wants to go for it. And the last ban, the Udyr, is a jungler that's just been rising into this meta. I would consider him top 4 junglers currently. It'd be Pantheon, Taliyah, and Olaf as the top 3. Then it's Udyr just sat nicely underneath him. So Fnatic get rid of him, as he is just an absolute menace on the board and does slightly counter the Taliyah. And obviously G2 are saying, we don't care about Taliyah, you can have that as a first pick, and we'll go for something else that can essentially threaten the map. And Fnatic are like, well, we'll ban the Udyr so you can't just hard counter her. So there you go. That's essentially the ban phase over and done with, and let's jump into our first round of picks. Our picks to kick off this game is firstly the Taliyah for Fnatic. They do not allow this OP jungler to slip through. Why am I saying it's an OP jungler? Well, it's the best AP jungle pick in the current meta, has a lot of single target damage, and single target damage is quite good in the current meta for a jungler, especially when she's looking for ganks. Usually you target people in the solo lanes, like top lane mostly, because you obviously want to focus in on a matchup that's a 1v1, so you're getting maximum usage of your single target damage. As well as that, you usually pair it with a CC champion in the top lane or mid, and they lock them in place, allowing you to land your full burst potential and use your seismic shove to knock them back towards your team, allowing an easier kill and less chance of them escaping. So as such, giving this to arguably one of the best junglers in the LEC right now is a big thing, and Selfmade's going to have a lot of fun on this very mobile AP carry. However, the response from G2 is their own AP mobile carry in the Lilia, who is built more for team fighting than I would say the Talia is, but she isn't as strong in my opinion. Not enough actual AP damage can be applied by this Lilia, plus if she's immediately focused in a fight, she's pretty much dead. Talia at least has some peel options that Lilia usually uses for engage, and that's sort of the weakness between the two. Talia's a lot more ranged than what a Lilia is, and essentially G2 are just hoping that they can outfight Fnatic, because they also pair up the Lilia with a Kaiser, and Kaiser is by far the best ADC in the current meta. A lot of damage can be put out by this champion in terms of the fact that she has a lot of burst, item changes helped her considerably as a pick, and the buffs that she received during preseason as well have just made her this menace in that bot lane that most people tend to struggle to deal with, and has quite a high win rate in solo queue as a pick. Fnatic though respond in kind with their bot lane duo, Thresh and Aphelios. This is by far the biggest combo bot lane in League in the current meta. Thresh, the safest support being played in pro play, and Aphelios, granted, is one of the most situational ADCs in terms of the guns needed for a team fight, but he is the strongest when he has the support of a Thresh. Why do I say that? Well, essentially Thresh has the lantern. He can just yoink him back to safety, make sure that he doesn't get absolutely decimated in fights, and realistically can be as obnoxious as possible. And it's very hard for G2 to deal with it, because if he gets put to sleep, lantern placed right next to the Aphelios pulls him back to safety as he essentially buffers the sleep with the lantern takeage. That's the big counter to Lilia that Fnatic have drafted, and in my opinion it is a big one to say the least. The last pick though for G2 in this phase is the Camille, and this was obviously going to come through with them obviously banning the Renekton. G2 was setting this one up for themselves. However, it does mean that they realistically haven't got the strongest of supports, as more than likely Fnatic will ban them out, but Camille provides her own engage with that hookshot, jumping on top of targets, isolating them, and allowing champions like the Lilia to prance around them and do enough damage to kill them off. That's the essential aim of the Camille, is to burst someone out as quick as possible, and with that Cho'Gath feast on her Q, it is very easy for people to underestimate the amount of damage that she can put out. Second ban phase again for us in this series is GP, Aatrox, Blitz, Galio, all removed from the field. And it's interesting to note these bans coming out from Fnatic. Blitz is a huge counter to Thresh, because essentially when someone hits that lantern, you can buffer the hook, so it just yoinks them back and takes them out of that safety. Or you just aim for the Thresh as someone's taking the hook. Pretty simple. It means that they get pulled back to the Blitz, and I remember this as a Vander counter to Thresh, and the actual Lantern play being absolutely annihilated by a Blitzcrank hook from him, essentially dooming whoever they were against. I forget who it was. I remember it was a rogue game, to say the least. Galio, Roam Champ, Caps likes it. It's also a support pick that would be good for Mickey's playstyle, who likes to leave lane a lot and get a lot of solo XP for Reckless in that sense. So Galio being taken away is a huge ban for Fnatic, as essentially they get a ban onto the mid lane as well as 2 bans onto the bot lane. So it's technically a 3-for-2 deal that's very huge for them. That being said, G2 applying a lot of pressure to that top lane matchup. They're essentially throwing down the gauntlet to Bwipo here, as they removed its safe blind pick GP. Even though it wouldn't be blind pick, it would be into a Camille, which is a alright matchup for the GP. It's a bit more favourable for team fighting and for bursting out targets slightly more than what a Camille can do, but it's more AoE burst than anything. And Aatrox is more the same. It does, however, leave open the likes of the Jax or the Quinn, which can be played extremely well into a Camille, I'll be honest. Jax is probably the biggest counter to Camille, and we saw it during the TLC 9 lock-in finals, powered by Alphari. That Jax just decimated Fudge in the opening game, and that led to TL winning that game and then winning the entire series thanks to their top lane pressure. G2, I guess, don't need to remove it, but they leave it open for him. Whether or not they go towards it, it's up to them to decide. So let's round out these drafts. We need a mid laner and a support for G2. We also need a mid laner and a top laner for Fnatic. And we'll start on G2 side. Alistar locked in to raring to go against that Thresh. I mean, it is probably one of the better supports available, and more looking for the team fighting aspect instead of the catching the Aphelios and Thresh off guard. I do like it per se, especially when you have the Kaiser. You provide CC with that headbutt, you knock him back, giving the plasma stack, getting more access to the backline. You also have the pulverize, that's multiple people being knocked into the air with that AoE knockup. That allows Kaiser a lot more targets to jump in the backline. So I like this pick, plus Alistar has a lot of CC negation in that ultimate and stat buff from it. I would have maybe preferred a Rel, as she could actually use the Kaiser as well, in the sense when the Kaiser killer instincts in, you have your E on her and you get a bit more options to stun targets as she goes zooming past the backline and stunning them. But whether or not Mickey is comfortable on that, don't tell. Plus Rel into Thresh would be actually very favourable, because Rel would just remove so many of them tank stats that you realistically rely on as a Thresh to provide safety to your carry and get them away. So that would be why you go Rel, but they don't. Instead it's the Alistar, which is fine either way. The response for Fnatic as they round out their draft is the Voli Bear for Bwipo. And this is a huge pick in my opinion, because going back to the World Championships in 2020, he pulled out this volley every time he saw a Camille when he could. It does a lot of damage. He is very good at this champion. He absolutely decimated Broken Blade on this pick during the World Championships. I remember that very fondly. And as I say, this volley is a hard thing to deal with, as it's essentially duelist versus duelist in that top lane. And I'd honestly say it favours the Volley Bear, as you've got grass procs coming through, you get a lot of HP, and normally Camille's at the current stage will either go Conqueror with a resolve tree and get tank stats that way via the overgrow skill, but in this current setup I'd probably expect grasp for grasp, both top laners going for that skill tree and kind of trying to match the trading, but in my opinion that still favours the Voli bear, because them bites that come out from that W just do chunks to your HP bar, and when he's jumping on top of you with his ultimate, turning them towers off, yikes, that's a lot of damage coming down on your head. And the stun on the Q, he's very good, and in my opinion is a far better pick than Camille, especially when Camille was blind picked, offering up the counter to Fnatic. Anyway, as a last pickup for Fnatic here, mid lane Ahoy is going to be interesting to me, because that does obviously leave Cap's counter pick for the mid lane. Azir though is a very strong hyperscaling AP carry. It's alright in my opinion. The Lucian was technically open, as there is obviously a AP jungler and a slightly more AP top lane, but if you went Lucian you would be essentially lane bullying against G2, and that would be in my opinion a very strong thing to say and do, because you're putting Caps in a position where he can't roam, can't affect the map, and that is just looking at this draft in terms of the bans, what Fnatic want to do. You've got TF removed from the board, you've got Galio removed from the board, both lane roaming champions for the mid lane, so they don't want Caps leaving lane. So why not go for, say, the Lucian and be able to roam the map and be threatening and stopping him from doing what he wants to do. Lucian has been seen play in LEC. Larson has pulled it out twice at least. Granted, it isn't as strong as what it used to be, but it is a very viable pick, and in my opinion would work in this game, as it would just keep Caps stuck in lane. But in a sense, G2 drafted Zoe as their final pick. I think this is an okay pick. Zoe is very hard punished when she portal jumps forward. That's an issue. She is, however, very powerful in terms of poke and the amount of damage she can do. Whether or not she can get through the Thresh and the Voli bear to land that poke, it's a bit iffy, but looking at the two drafts, I don't feel the Zoe fits as well into G2's squad, and honestly, they could have gone for the Lucian themselves. That would have made a bit more sense with the Lilia jungle. It would be favourable, granted it would be top AD, jungle AP, and then mid AD, so you would get the spread of damage, but you also then have the bot lane that's fully AD. So yeah, G2 don't want to over commit to AD, because Voli bear, boom, Thornmail, boom, oh, you're doing basically no damage to me, so you have to have some AP realistically from multiple sources. So G2 do the smart thing and go AP in the mid lane. However, Zoe isn't my favourite option here. I would have honestly preferred a Syndra, and that is a Caps special. Zoe provides single target stuns with that Sleepy Trouble bubble. Syndra, AoE stuns. You have a lot more burst potential out of a Syndra, in my opinion, than Zoe, even if it is a paddle star combination from long range doing tons of damage. I still feel Syndra, with the Scar of the Weak and Unleash Power combination you can do, just absolutely burst a single target. That allows you a better chance at winning a fight because you've eliminated someone immediately. And to me, Syndra would have made a lot more sense than this Zoe. But what do I know? I just analyze drafts for most of the time. I wouldn't know how it would work out if Cap's got one of his strongest mid lane picks that he's stolen Barons on before against Rogue, done a lot of work on that pick and probably has a very high KDA on it. So I wouldn't know why he wouldn't go for that pick. I guess it's because people value Zoe slightly more because of the power it can be shown with, and because of VTO's performance on it for Misfits in week 1, yeah, I think that might be why. Anyway, draft over and done with me bullshitting my way through it as well. Let us get into our team fight breakdown. During Season 11's preseason, we saw the backstab by Reckless as he betrayed Fnatic, who are looking for revenge with their rebirth roster here in this game. No, I didn't just quote Reckless with my heart. I did definitely do that. And as such, Fnatic aim to smash G2 and seize their throne in this game. And boy, do we see a demolition by this roster as the guys in orange sneak away the Baron. Hylissang snags a bit of a Wagyu, who is immediately chunked to low HP and forced out of the fight, as Wunder tries to protect his stake, diving in, killing Hilly where he stands. But this upsets the sleeping bear, who jumps headfirst into the G2 team, and the damage from him is just bamboozling as he kills a woman and eats his steak raw. Alongside this, his goth boyfriend gets some venison, killing off Bambi, leaving only the betrayers of Fnatic to sit and watch their castle crumble in front of them. And eventually, Reckless cannot cope without Fnatic, and his instinct is to throw his body into his former teams, trading lives with Selfmade, and this angers the sleeping bear yet again as he TPs in, and the aspect of Twilight is ran down, and nom mother truckers, he gets to eat a little girl, ending this fight 5-2 in favor of Fnatic. And on top of that, they get the Baron, and that ends this game essentially in a decimation by Fnatic as they reclaim a lot of people's respect, as they've just decimated G2, a team that was considered the best in Europe, if not one of the best in the world with this roster. And as a whole, this game was an absolute crushing, and you have to look at the draft and how Bwippo was able to get his favourite thing he picks into Camille, the Voli bear, and that pick just decimated this game, as I said, giving over a massive win to Fnatic when it comes to playoffs, as they were struggling week 1 against all the teams they faced. And here, they're just showing the form that they need to be at when it comes to playoffs. The team that people should fear, and why they should be feared. Anyway, that's going to be it for this team fight breakdown. It was a bit of a weird one, this, but hey, it's early season. We've only had one real serious one that I've only just finished. Be sure to leave this video a like down below, subscribe if you're new around here if you want to, and I will see you guys next time, where we'll be looking at Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest in the LCS. See you guys then.